was never afraid of the dark. Not really. Not until that night. It started with a sound. A small, almost imperceptible noise that my brain tried to ignore. A soft shuffle, like bare feet on a wooden floor. I lived alone. The sound shouldn't have been there. My apartment was on the 12th floor of an old complex in Chicago, the kind with narrow hallways and doors that never quite shut all the way. It was late, past 2 a.m. when I first heard it. I was sitting on my couch, half watching the glow of the muted TV, scrolling through my phone, fighting off the weight of sleep. And then, the noise. A slow, deliberate movement from somewhere in my apartment. I sat up, every nerve in my body suddenly awake. I held my breath, listening. The silence stretched, thick and unnatural. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was the pipes or the wind against the windows. But then I heard it again, closer. I turned my head toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. I always closed it before bed. Always. A chill crawled up my spine. A cold, creeping sensation that settled in my stomach. I forced a laugh, shaking my head. "Get a grip, Matt," I muttered to myself. "Just the building settling. That's all." I got up, stretching as if to shake off the unease. The apartment felt different. Off. The air was heavier, thicker. I walked toward the hallway, my own footsteps sounding too loud against the hardwood floor. My bedroom door stood still, barely open. Darkness spilled out from inside. I reached for the switch on the wall, my fingers grazing the cold plastic. And then, a sound. Not footsteps, not the creak of an old building. Breathing, soft, slow, measured. Coming from the dark gap of my bedroom, tore my own breath hitched in my throat. My hand trembled over the light switch. I wanted to turn it on. I needed to turn it on. But something deep inside me whispered, "Don't." I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place. The breathing continued, unhurried, steady, just beyond the doorway. Someone was there, standing in my room, watching me. And then, without warning, the breathing stopped. The silence that followed was worse, an unnatural, suffocating quiet. I couldn't move, couldn't think. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey. And then, from the darkness, a whisper, so close, it could have been in my ear. "I see you." I ran. Not the logical, calculated kind of run, but the blind, desperate sprint of an animal trapped in a burning cage. My hands fumbled, slamming into walls, my breath coming in ragged gasps as I stumbled into the living room. My heart was a wild thing hammering against my ribs, threatening to shatter them from the inside. Behind me, the silence stretched thick and waiting. I turned, my body rigid with terror. The bedroom door was wide open now. The darkness inside it was deep, too deep, like a void carved out of the world itself. And in that abyss, something shifted. A figure. It didn't step forward. It didn't lunge. It just moved, barely perceptible, like a trick of the eye, the shape of a person taller than me, impossibly still. But I felt it watching, studying. My fingers fumbled for my phone. I turned on the flashlight, aiming the trembling beam toward the doorway. Nothing. My bedroom was empty. But I knew. That wasn't true. Then the light flickered. For a split second, the shadows bent, twisting unnaturally, and I saw it. A face. Not human. Not really. Its features were wrong. Too long, too stretched, its mouth curling into something that wasn't a smile but wanted to be. Its eyes, God, its eyes, were pits of liquid black, bottomless and hungry. The flashlight flickered again, and in that blink of darkness it moved. I screamed. The apartment lights buzzed, dimming and flaring like something was feeding on them. A deep, guttural clicking sound filled the air, rattling my bones. My feet barely worked as I staggered backward, my vision tunneling, and then the whisper again. Let me in. A sharp, cold pressure ran up my spine like fingers dragging over my skin. The air was wrong, charged with something ancient, something starving. I ran for the door, hand shaking as I fumbled with the lock. My breath hitched, a sob catching in my throat as I turned the deadbolt. The knob twisted from the inside. It was behind me. The light went out. The darkness swallowed me whole, and the last thing I felt before everything went silent was something pressing its lips against my ear and smiling. I didn't realize the house was breathing until I turned off the TV. For hours, the noise had been buried under the hum of late-night infomercials, the canned laughter of sitcom reruns, the distant howl of wind against the windows. But when I clicked the remote and silence spilled into the room, I heard it, a soft, rhythmic inhaling and exhaling buried somewhere within the walls. At first, I told myself it was the old pipes. The house was ancient, after all, one of those creaky two-story homes in upstate New York sitting at the edge of a forgotten cul-de-sac. A place no one had lived in for years before me. I had gotten it cheap, a deal too good to be true. I sat there frozen, ears straining. The sound was subtle, almost imperceptible, but now that I'd noticed it, I couldn't ignore it. A slow, deliberate wheeze like someone struggling to breathe. It was coming from inside the walls. A shiver crawled down my spine. The air in the living room felt heavier, pressing against my skin like damp fabric. I swallowed hard, forcing a chuckle. Just the house settling, I muttered to myself. My voice sounded too thin in the quiet. Then the whisper came. It wasn't a word. Not really. Just a faint, dragging exhale that carried a shape of something almost human. It came from behind me. I spun around. The room was empty. My throat tightened. The house had always felt off. Even when I first moved in, there was something unsettling about it, something that made my skin prickle when I walked down the dim hallways at night. The floors were warped, the doors never quite shut right, and the basement, God, the basement. I had only been down there once, and something about the darkness at the bottom of those wooden stairs made my stomach twist. But this was different. I stood, my legs unsteady, my ears still straining for any sign of movement. The whisper didn't come again. Neither did the breathing. Just silence. A tense, unnatural silence. I took a step forward. The floor groaned under my weight, the noise jagged and too loud. My pulse thudded in my ears as I reached out and pressed, a hand against the wall, cold, almost wet. I yanked my fingers back. Something moved inside the wall. Not a rat. Not the shifting of old wood. Something big. Something alive. My stomach twisted into knots. My rational mind screamed at me to find a reasonable explanation, to laugh it off, to go to bed and pretend I had imagined it. But my instincts, they were screaming at me to run. Then a knock. 3 sharp, deliberate taps. From inside the wall. I stopped breathing. My skin erupted in goosebumps, my heart hammering against my ribs so violently it hurt. I staggered backward, my foot catching on the edge of the rug. I nearly fell, my hand gripping the back of the couch to steady myself. The air changed. A shift so subtle I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't already drowning in fear. It was closer. Now I didn't hear it move. I didn't hear anything at all, but I felt it. A presence. Watching me. Waiting. And then, so close it felt like it was breathing into my ear. A whisper. You shouldn't have listened. I bolted. The room twisted as I stumbled toward the hallway, my breath jagged, my pulse thundering in my ears. I didn't care where I was running. I just needed to get away from that voice, that impossible whisper that had crawled into my skull, like a parasite. The walls groaned around me. Not like old wood shifting, but like something was pushing against them from the inside. The breath returned, deep, ragged inhalations, pressing against me from all sides. It was louder now, closer. I reached the stairs, my hand grasping the banister, fingers slick with sweat. The hallway stretched ahead, too long, too dark, as if the house itself was warping around me. Then, the knock again. 3 sharp, deliberate taps, but this time, it came from inside the ceiling. I looked up. The air left my lungs. The attic hatch was slightly open, and someone was looking down at me. A face, pale and stretched, staring from the darkness above. Its mouth was too wide, curling into a grotesque grin. Its black, sunken eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I could only watch as the thing began to lower itself from the attic, its bones popping, limbs too long, too thin. Its fingers curled around the edges of the hatch, nails splintered and blackened. It moved wrong. Like it had forgotten how to be human. I turned and ran. I hit the front door, yanking at the locks with shaking hands. My vision blurred with terror, the air too thick to breathe. Behind me, the breathing grew louder. Wet, hungry. I yanked the door open and something grabbed my shoulder. Ice. Its touch was like ice, burning through my shirt, sending a violent shudder through my bones. Nails dug into my skin. Not quite human, not quite right. I screamed. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I lunged forward, tearing myself free. Pain seared through my shoulder as I stumbled onto the porch, into the freezing night air. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I ran until my legs gave out, until my lungs felt like they were collapsing in my chest. When I finally turned around, panting, trembling, my house stood silent and still. The windows were dark. The door was wide open, and in the blackness of the doorway, 2 eyes watched me, unblinking, grinning, waiting. I never went back. But sometimes late at night when the world is silent and still, I swear I can still hear it, breathing, waiting, and worst of all, whispering my name. The first time I saw it, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. It was late, maybe 2 or 3 a.m. I had fallen asleep on the couch again, my laptop still open, the glow of the screen the only light in the room. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like something is listening. Then I noticed the door, not the front door, not the bedroom door, the closet door. It was open. Just slightly. I knew for a fact I had shut it before going to bed. I always did. It was a stupid habit I had since childhood, one I never outgrew. Something about open closets made my skin crawl. I sat up, my pulse quickening. The door stood ajar just an inch, blackness spilling from the crack like ink. I stared at it, waiting for my sleepy brain to explain it away. Maybe the air conditioning had nudged it open. Maybe I hadn't closed it as tightly as I thought. Then the door moved, not much, barely an inch. But enough. Enough to make my breath catch in my throat. Enough to make my skin prickle with something primal and wrong. I reached for my phone, fumbling to turn on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on the opening. The closet was empty. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Stood, legs unsteady, every nerve in my body screaming at me to leave it alone. But I couldn't. I crept toward the closet, swallowing the thick lump in my throat. Then as I got closer, a sound. Soft. Breathing. Slow, ragged inhales. Shallow, wheezing exhales coming from the closet. I froze. My fingers hovered over the door handle, my body locking in place. The breathing stopped. I felt the silence like a weight pressing against my chest. I exhaled shakily, forcing a weak chuckle. Jesus, I whispered. I'm losing it. Then from inside the closet, a whisper. You were supposed to be asleep. My heart stopped. I staggered backward, my body cold, my vision tunneling. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The door creaked open another inch, and in that sliver of darkness, something moved. I couldn't move. My body refused to obey, locked in place by something deeper than fear, something primal, something that knew I was seeing something I was never meant to see. The closet door inched open, revealing nothing but blackness. A blackness so dense, so unnatural it felt alive, and within that abyss something shifted. Not like a person, not like anything human. It unfolded. Too many limbs, too many joints bending the wrong way. Its silhouette stretched and contorted, as if struggling to fit into a shape I could comprehend. The sound it made, a wet, gurgling rasp, sent ice through my veins. Then, in the dim glow of my laptop screen, I saw its hand. Long, thin, wrong, fingers like brittle twigs, curling around the edge of the door. The nails were black, jagged, embedded with something that looked like human teeth. A single step backward. That's all I managed. One shaky, barely controlled step. The floor creaked beneath my weight. And then, it lunged. The closet exploded open, the thing bursting forward with an impossible, jerking speed. I saw glimpses of it, skin stretched too tight over bone, its mouth too wide, too full of teeth. But I didn't wait for a better look. I ran. My foot caught on the coffee table, sending me crashing to the floor. Pain flared up my knee, but I didn't stop. I scrambled forward, clawing my way toward the hallway. Behind me, it scuttled across the floor. Fast. Too fast. Its limbs skittered against the wood, joints popping, its breath a sickening wet rattle. I hit the hallway and bolted for the bedroom. My hands trembled so violently I barely managed to grab the doorknob, slamming it shut just as it reached me. A thud shook the door, then another, then silence. I pressed my back against the wall, my chest heaving, my mind barely clinging to reality. My pulse pounded so hard it felt like my skull would split open. Then, a click. The closet door inside my bedroom. It opened. My breath stopped. I turned my head, every muscle in my body screaming at me not to. The closet stood open. I hadn't even touched it, and inside, a shape, tall, still, grinning. I barely had time to scream. Everything went black. I woke up in my bed. Morning light streamed through the window. My body ached, my mouth dry, my head heavy. Had it been a dream? No. Knew better, because my closet door was still open, and inside, in the farthest, darkest corner, something was breathing, waiting, and smiling. I don't know why I answered the phone that night. It was almost 3 a.m. and I was dead asleep when the ringing cut through the silence like a blade. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, its glow casting an eerie light across the room. Unknown number. I should have ignored it. I wish I had, but something about it felt wrong. Half asleep, I swiped to answer, pressing it against my ear. Hello? At first, nothing, just breathing. Slow, ragged, too deliberate. Then, you left the door unlocked. I sat up so fast my head spun. My eyes darted to my bedroom door, closed. My heart pounded against my ribs, an icy grip tightening around my spine. Who is this? I whispered. Silence. Then just before the line went dead, You should have locked it. The call ended. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air thick and suffocating. My hands trembled as I checked the call log. No number, no record, like it had never happened. I climbed out of bed, every nerve in my body on edge. I knew my front door had been locked. I knew it, but I had to check. I moved through the dark hallway, the wooden floor cold beneath my feet. The house was silent, but something felt off, like I wasn't alone. As I reached the front door, I saw it. The deadbolt. It was unlocked. My breath caught in my throat. My fingers hovered over the handle, my pulse hammering in my ears. I locked it, testing it twice, my movements shaky. Then from the hallway behind me, a floorboard creaked. I spun around, my stomach twisting into knots. The hallway stretched into blackness, the only light coming from the faint glow of my phone screen. I wasn't alone, I could feel it. And then from the darkness, a whisper. I told you. I couldn't breathe. The voice had come from the hallway, right behind me. I turned. Slowly, my fingers tightening around my phone like it was some kind of useless shield. My screen's glow barely cut through the darkness, but in that sliver of dim light I saw something. A shadow. Not my own. Tall. Motionless. Standing at the far end of the hall just outside my bedroom door. A shape with no detail, except for its eyes. Two black voids, darker than the surrounding night. Empty, yet somehow watching me. I stumbled back, my heel catching on the rug. My balance faltered and I fell, hard, my head smacking against the wooden floor. Pain bloomed at the back of my skull, my vision blurring. Then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate, coming toward me. I scrambled back, kicking at the floor, dragging myself toward the door. My breath came in ragged gasps, my limbs weak and clumsy. The footsteps didn't stop. It was getting closer. I reached the door, yanking on the handle, desperate to get out. My fingers fumbled with the lock. My head throbbed. My vision swam. Behind me, the footsteps stopped. I didn't want to look, I didn't want to see it, but I did. I turned my head just slightly and it was right there, inches from my face. No features, no mouth, just those black, endless eyes. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just stood there, watching me, waiting. Then so close I felt it in my skull, it whispered, "You let me in." My mind snapped. I threw my entire weight against the door, twisting the knob so hard it burned my palm. It flung open and I ran, barefoot, shirtless, straight into the freezing night air. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I ran down the street, my lungs burning, my feet scraping against the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A porch light flicked on. The world felt normal, as if nothing had happened, as if the thing inside my house didn't exist, but I knew better. I stopped in the middle of the road, my breath coming in panicked gasps. My entire body trembled as I turned to look back at my house. The windows were dark. Except for one. My bedroom window. A figure stood there, still, motionless, watching me, and then the bedroom light turned off and I knew without a doubt it wasn't going to let me go. The first time I saw it, I thought I was dreaming. It was just past midnight and I was driving home from my sister's house. The highway was empty, too empty. No headlights, no taillights. Just me, the cracked asphalt, and the thick, suffocating darkness pressing in from both sides. Then I saw the man. He was standing at the edge of the road just beyond the reach of my high beams. Perfectly still. Perfectly wrong. His face was turned away, his body too rigid, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. I felt my foot lift off the gas. Something in me screamed not to slow down. As I got closer, the headlights caught more detail. His skin looked stretched, too pale, like old wax. He wasn't wearing a shirt, just dark, tattered pants that hung from his bony frame. Then, he turned his head, not like a normal person. Not gradually. It snapped toward me in one violent jerk. His eyes, too many eyes, glimmered in the darkness, reflecting the light like a predator's. His mouth, too wide, too full of teeth, curled into something that wasn't a smile. I slammed, my foot on the gas. The tires screeched, the car fishtailed, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles went white, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then, the worst sound imaginable. A thud. Something hitting the roof of my car. My stomach dropped. My mind reeled. I didn't stop. I kept driving, my pulse pounding, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My rear-view mirror was tilted toward the ceiling. I couldn't see behind me, but I felt it. Something was on top of my car. Then, the scratching started, long, slow, deliberate, clawing at the metal, dragging across the roof. Then, a voice. Not from outside, from inside the car. You should have stopped. I couldn't breathe. The voice hadn't come from outside. It was inside the car. My hands clenched the steering wheel, my knuckles turning bone white. I wanted to turn, to look over my shoulder, to see whatever was behind me, but I couldn't. A primal, gut-wrenching terror held me still. I knew that if I turned around, if I met its gaze, something unspeakable would happen. The scratching on the roof grew more erratic, more frenzied, like whatever was up there was losing patience. My foot pressed harder on the gas. The car roared forward, speedometer needle climbing higher, but the sound didn't stop. Then, a weight shifted. The metal above me creaked, buckling under something heavy. The sound moved from the roof to the windshield. It was crawling down. My heart slammed against my ribs, my body drenched in cold sweat. The windshield wipers swept across the glass, revealing fingers, long, brittle, splitting at the tips. They stretched downward from the roof, pressing against the glass. The nails, too many, too jagged, screeched against it. I gasped, my body shaking, my vision tunneling into panic. Then, the face. It peeled into view. Those eyes, those endless, black, glistening holes. They weren't just looking at me. They were pulling me in. Its mouth, too wide, too wrong, too full of jagged, uneven teeth, began to open. Not like a person's mouth, more like a wound splitting apart, revealing something that should never be seen. I jerked the wheel. The car swerved violently, tires skidding, the world blurring into chaos. The weight on the windshield shifted. And then, silence. The car screeched to a stop, headlights illuminating nothing but an empty road ahead. I was panting, my chest rising and falling in rapid, uneven gasps. My entire body trembled, drenched in sweat. It was gone. I let out a shaky, disbelieving laugh, running a trembling hand through my hair. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror, and I froze. There, in the back seat. It was sitting behind me, its head tilted at an impossible angle, eyes locked onto mine through the reflection. Its mouth began to move, but no sound came out, just a low, sickening, wet noise like something shifting inside a hollowed-out corpse. Then, a whisper. "You're going the wrong way." Before I could react, something grabbed my throat. Hands. Too many hands. Ice-cold, skeletal fingers wrapped around my neck from the darkness behind me. My body jerked violently, my vision blurring, my lungs fighting for air as the grip tightened. I thrashed, kicking at the dashboard, clawing at the steering wheel, but the hands, they were everywhere. Clawing at my arms, my face pulling me back, Then just before my vision went black, I saw the road ahead. The headlights illuminated something I hadn't noticed before. A signpost. Dead end. The last thing I heard before the world turned to darkness. Laughter. Not human. Not of this world. Just pure, endless, consuming horror. Then the car plunged into the abyss, and I knew I was never coming back. Now that you've heard what no one should, remember, the terror doesn't end here. There are still many stories lurking in the dark, waiting to be told. So subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with your family. It helps me a lot to keep bringing you these chilling tales. And don't forget to check out the next video playing on the screen if you dare to face more nightmares.